Well, I want to thank everybody for joining today's Code Ninjas conference call. We do these calls each and every week to help give better insight and understanding of Code Ninjas. My name is Marty Flanagan. I'm the Vice President of Franchising here with Code Ninjas. David Graham, Bert Sensapon, and myself started Code Ninjas in 2016. And obviously now fast forward to we're now in April of 2019. So what I usually take these calls and kind of give you Code Ninjas by the numbers and help you get a better understanding of what's happened over the last couple of years and give you better insight in regards to Code Ninjas in general. How did we start? Give a little bit insight on our curriculum. So like I said, my name is Marty Flanagan, Vice President of Franchising here with Code Ninjas. These calls typically have anywhere from 20 to 50 attendees. The first 10 or 15 minutes are always the same. So if you've listened to these calls in the past, you're going to see hear some similar things in terms of just what this first 10 or 15 minutes is like. And then we're going to move into the Q&A, and that's a live Q&A where you can ask any questions you have on your mind regarding Code Ninjas, and I'll do my very best to answer everybody's questions. And typically that is the best part of these calls, really. Listening to me for 10 or 15 minutes is okay, but really hearing your questions, getting those answers is really the best part about these calls. All these calls are hosted on our YouTube channel, for franchising YouTube channel for Code Ninjas. And the longer the calls are, typically if you go back and look at those and listen to them, the longer the calls means that there was more questions. So I invite your questions at that time, when the time is appropriate. I want to answer all of them. That's my favorite part of these calls, is to be able to get to your questions and have that live interaction. And that'll be in about 10 or 15 minutes after I kind of I'll go through this first part of the call. So when it comes to Code Ninjas, kind of where is Code Ninjas by the numbers? Well, currently right now, and as of today, we have 225 franchisees. We have close to 450 sold locations in the U.S. and Canada. We currently have just over 100 locations open, with about 70 more opening in the coming next 60 to 90 days. So by the end of the second quarter, we'll have more than 170 Code Ninjas open between the U.S. and Canada, with the majority of those being in the U.S. Canada itself, if you're tuning in from Canada, Canada has been extremely receptive to Code Ninjas. In fact, we are predicting to have Code Ninjas sold out by May of this year. If not sold out, very, very close to being sold out by May, so just about another 60 days. We are usually averaging anywhere from 5 to 10 sold territories per month. And it's actually just now really picking up more and more. So we're looking at Canada being sold out probably by the end of May, is what I'm assuming. I'm kind of guesstimating there. So obviously Code Ninjas has been very receptive by entrepreneurs, whether it's tech-based teachers, straight-up entrepreneurs of different franchise brands and self coming into the Code Ninjas family. It's obviously been very receptive. Only 2% of franchises ever accomplish 100 locations open within their first 24 months of business. So we are in a very select group, a very small group of other franchise brands. We are very fortunate to be there, and we're very thankful to be there. Our franchisees are fantastic, and we really are excited to be able to connect with everybody and talk about Code Ninjas and why we're so different and why are we making such an impact. And really it started back with David Graham, who is the CEO and founder of Code Ninjas. David Graham owned a school, and he's been a coder and a programmer, for 25 plus years. He's been an entrepreneur also, and then he also was a franchisee. So he left that whole tech space, became a franchisee of a fitness brand, and that's where he and I met about 10 years ago. And then he sold off that franchise. So he's got kind of the inner workings of a franchise. Being a franchisee, he actually did a lot of work for that franchise internally with their operating systems and technology, which is actually still used today with more than 4,600 locations. So lots of experience there. And then he moved on and he opened a school that taught adults how to code. So that school that he owned that taught adults how to code operated for about 4.5 years in 18 different cities. That was not a franchise. That was a corporate-run entity that he had for about 4.5 years. Like I said, operated in about 18 different cities. He sold that school and when he sold that school, that's when he kind of ventured off. That school was sold to the Wozniak Group, and then he basically, had this whole idea of Code Ninjas because there wasn't a week that went by that when students would come through, his adult school, they would ask about the younger generation. And as he continued to ask, and having boys himself in that younger age range, he was always looking at opportunities to teach his kids. And then obviously with all this other feedback coming in, he continued to look at the market. And that's where he really saw the problem. He really saw the issue. He saw how shallow the curriculum was. He saw how segmented the curriculum was. And as he was sitting in his son's karate class, he looked up at those belts and he said, you can learn how to code that way, where all the skills and concepts kind of feed and build off one another. So as that all kind of hit him and he started to really lay out the curriculum, we also at that time started building out who we are as a company and who we are going to be as a franchise. Are we going to be a corporate-run entity? Are we going to be a franchise? David Graham saw the value of being a part of a franchise. I myself was an executive at a franchise for 12 years, so I know the value of franchising. So we really started to bring it together as how this is going to look as a franchise. So Bert, David, and I spent about 6 months building out Code Ninjas as a franchise, job descriptions, support pathways, how we can scale up our business, how we can make this look, how does it make sense, and then obviously going to conferences, using our experience and our connections, building out how Code Ninjas is going to be as a franchise. So a few things with that. One, it obviously starts with some of the curriculum, which people always ask about. What about the curriculum? What about the curriculum? Well, we actually have 6 different opportunities for families to get involved in Code Ninjas. It's not just a one-and-done culture, one-and-done atmosphere, one-and-done learning opportunity. There's multiple ways families can get involved in Code Ninjas based on their experience, based on their finances, based on convenience. This is an opportunity we're trying to get out there to not just the 2% of the families who truly understand it. They're valuable as well, but the other 98% who truly don't understand the value of their son or their daughter learning how to code. Our most popular, I would say, which is also the number one revenue stream inside your Code Ninjas, is called the drop-in program. The drop-in program is really also what's gotten received quite a bit of attention on the market. The drop-in curriculum is made up of 9 different belts. That's that belting program. Within inside each belt is a learned set of skills and concepts. At the end of each belt, students are required to show their proficiency of those skills and concepts learned by building a game that requires those skills and concepts. Once they're able to build that game and show their proficiency, that's when they're going to be able to progress to the next belt. So when they progress to the next belt, every belt compounds onto one another. So every belt works together. It's not segmented learning. It's all cumulative learning. It all works together like compound interest. It's all building off one another. All those skills and concepts build on one another as they work through the belts. This curriculum has an exclusive robotics program built into it. This curriculum has proprietary textbooks that are a part of it. This curriculum is 90% proprietary and exclusive to Code Ninjas. Also, this is a flexible learning system. This is not a classroom. This is not a lecture. Students come in. They scan their wristband. They go into our dojo. They're going to go into the textbooks. They're going to do that lesson for that day. They're going to work through the curriculum. It all lives on our platform in the cloud. So everything we have, they're going to access that through our dashboard. All that's been built by us. This flexible learning system allows them to learn at their own pace. They're going to be able to access the Code Ninjas curriculum for up to 2 hours a week. Now, we are about to release another program, which actually parents have some more flexibility with, but right now it's about 2 hours a week. Parents pay a flat tuition rate per month for their son or their daughter to access that. But again, that is actually about to be upgraded and give parents a few more options. So this curriculum has an 8-to-1 Code Sensei to teacher ratio. So when we think of 8-to-1, when the students are there and they're working through their lesson for that day, when they run into a situation where they're going to need help, they're going to raise their hand, and that's when one of our Code Senseis are going to come over, sit with them, work with them through that problem one-on-one, give them that one-on-one attention, and then they're going to move on. So they're going to help them problem solve. This curriculum also takes about 3 to 4 years for a student to accomplish. So this curriculum goes very, very deep. When you get to that ninth belt, when you're in that ninth belt, that's not just building your own game from ground up, right? It's not just it's going from total conception to development to beta test to release and all of the steps in between. When we talk about releasing that game to the App Store, when you release that game, there's a whole business side of that comes into play too that we go through. It's not just, oh, you built it, let it go. It's more than that. It's deeper than that. So when it comes to that part of the curriculum, that drop-in curriculum, this is the most popular, and it really allows our students to really work at their own pace. Some are going to get through different parts of the curriculum faster than others, and vice versa. But this is a flexible learning system, and this is the opportunity where they have to learn at their own pace going through robotics. They can go back and play games that they've done in the past and they've built in the past. Parents can access this through the parent portal. We stick with our motto: as kids have fun, parents see results. So this is all a game-based curriculum. And this, like I said, all lives on our dashboard. It will live on our platform in the cloud, only access through our dashboard. So when they come in and they scan their wristband, that is what unlocks their ability to use the Code Ninjas belt program, the drop-in curriculum. This is one opportunity that families have to get involved in Code Ninjas. This is only accessible through the code at the center, at Code Ninjas. We also have camps. Camps can be done inside Code Ninjas and outside of Code Ninjas. We currently have 11 different camps that you can offer inside your Code Ninjas, and you can take those camps out into the school system. So you can go to school and do camps. We beta tested that with some of our franchisees to take it outside of our center because franchisees were being approached so much by schools, and it worked out very, very well. So we launched it a few months ago to allow all of our franchisees to take their camps, the camp-based curriculum, into the schools. Same with workshops. Camps, just so you're aware, are usually 5 days long, and they go for half days or full days for those 5 days. Camps are typically 1 to 3 days, half day or full day. So camps are obviously workshops are shorter. So we have our drop-in program, we have camps, we have workshops, we have parents' night out, we also have birthday parties, and then we also have an after-school program. So those are multiple opportunities for families to get involved in Code Ninjas, not just one. So they really have, when somebody comes in, a family comes in, you really have the opportunity to engage with them where they're at, not just kind of say, this is all we do, and this is how we do it. And there's individualized attention, obviously, with our Code Senseis, which are typically 17 to 22 years old. The curriculum is designed for you to deliver an exceptional experience and to teach and coach the Code Ninjas curriculum. The way Code Ninjas operates is you're not hiring coders and programmers to come in and teach students what they know. They're coming in to teach, and we don't hire coders and programmers. You don't have to do that. 17 to 22-year-olds that have a robotics background, they have a heart to working with kids. Maybe they have a computer science background. This is what they want to do with their future. This really allows them also, this age group of 17 to 22, this allows these Code Senseis to put this on their resume in the future. And they taught kids how to code through a game-based curriculum. With more than 100 centers open, we have yet to have a problem or an issue with hiring Code Senseis. These kids are excited to be a part of our environment. The Code Ninjas curriculum, the Code Ninja Centers itself, we focus on that 7 to 14 years old. So that gives you a better idea of the Code Ninjas curriculum a little bit and gives you an idea of the offerings that we have on the inside. Why we decided to become a franchise is because franchisees are your brand development. Franchisees support is obviously an ongoing support. We are not just about getting you open and then letting you go. This is all ongoing. So everything we do between our marketing, we have a 12-week pre-opening roadmap for you to follow. We have tech support. We have obviously performance supporting. We have compliance. You have dedicated individuals to help you on that daily basis, monthly basis, as needed basis to help you with having your Code Ninjas perform at the highest level it can, which is also obviously you performing at the highest level that you can. Another part about this, too, is our franchisee-to-franchisee collaboration. This is probably what really is one of our, I would say one of the best parts about Code Ninjas is our franchisees are truly engaged with one another. We have a platform for our franchisees to create chats. We go back and forth, share files, pictures. We have our Code Ninja University that's on this as well. So it really gives franchisees a chance to support and work with one another, share best practices. We have dedicated staff internally that also are about sharing those best practices. And there, in her position, she is always looking at our collaboration tools, grabbing those best practices, looking at reports and seeing how centers are performing, gathering that information to really give that back to the franchisees so they can see and build a solid executable plan for themselves on these best practices. So this is a collaboration tool that we have that's set up for our franchisees to really work together. You can make phone calls through that. You can do live chats through that. You can create your own chats through that. We have things already structured and built in place, so different levels, different phases for different stages on where you are, but that is built in. So that collaboration tool. When people will ask, what's the differentiator? What really makes Code Ninja so much different? Well, that is huge, because having that kind of feedback coming in on a regular basis from more than 225 franchisees that are always looking through the marketplace to get the competitive edge, using that. My last brand I was with for 12 years, they talk about harnessing the greatness of your franchisees. And we really focused on that when we were building Code Ninjas, is how do we harness that greatness? And having those collaboration tools there in place, getting that feedback coming in about the curriculum, about the experience, about marketing, about being involved in the community. So many pieces of Code Ninjas has come in to play based on that feedback, based on that communication tool, has really been able to build our brand and make it stronger. And this is why we have grown. March alone, we added 70 new territories just in the month of March. That means they were signed and paid for with a timeline to open. 70 locations just in the month of March. Pretty incredible. So we are obviously very excited, and it's very validating for us to see this kind of feedback coming from entrepreneurs and really bright people from all over the U.S. and Canada to coming into the Code Ninja family to be able to see this opportunity for what it is. So it's very exciting for us. Well, that's that first 15, 20 minutes. Pretty easy, pretty good overview. This is going to be your time, which I really enjoy this time. So this is a great time for you to ask questions. It's pretty simple. So you'll hear probably an announcement, but it's hitting *6. When you hit *6, that allows you to be able to kind of virtually raise your hand and allows you to ask questions. And questions typically that we get are, I don't know what to ask, which is a great question, right? This is why these calls are so important, because you start to hear questions that you maybe haven't thought of, and then it triggers another question and another question. So this is your time. Now, if I did such a fantastic job, and I say this every call, if I just knocked it out of the park and nobody has any questions, which has never, ever happened in one of these calls over the past 2 years that I've been doing them, every Friday for 2 years, I've always had questions. So this is your time to ask questions by hitting *6. It allows you to virtually raise your hand, and I will be able to call on you and you'll be able to ask questions. So here we have our first question. Hi, you have a question?
Hi, my name is Tushar. I'm from Canada, Saskatchewan. Hello, Marty. Thank you so much for your time, and I really like the perspective you've given to us. My first question is, we haven't discussed about investment. How much investment are we looking per center? And if you give a territory, is it just one center, or it's multiple centers that a person can open in one territory?
So yeah, when it comes to opening a Code Ninjas, a brick and mortar Code Ninjas is $110,000 to $250,000 total turnkey. So that means everything from your franchise fee, your build out, from inventory, that's your design, that's your outside signage, that's marketing, pre-opening marketing dollars, that's everything. That 110 to 250 for 1,800 square feet. The delta comes from construction costs and will be your landlord contribution if any, to your build-out. So that's called TIA, Tenant Improvement Allowance. So your construction cost and your TIA from your landlord is really what that delta is made up of, since we don't know yet what your construction costs are, and we don't know yet what your landlord would or would not contribute to your build.
So you definitely have a plan for the center, but do you have authorized, builders that you would recommend, or you're okay with we getting our own contractors?
Well, yeah, we have so definitely be getting your own contractors. We've gone down the road before of having contractors in place, preferred vendors, but getting your own contractor locally is definitely going to save you some money. We have our facility guide, construction manual, design manual already done. So when you get your design done for your space, that's also going to be able to hand it right over to your architect. Your architect is going to lay out all the plumbing, and electrical, and all that fun stuff, and then that's basically going to get handed over to your contractor. Your contractor has the roadmap to how to build out the center. Pretty smooth process.
Okay, and is it one center per territory, or how does their territory work?
Yes, yep, one center per territory. So when you purchase a territory and you pay that franchise fee, you're paying a franchise fee for one location, one territory.
All right. I have more questions unless anybody else wants to go.
Yeah, you're the only person that out of 30 plus people right now on the line, you're the only person asking questions. So after you're done, we'll probably wrap up the call. So feel free to ask another question.
Okay, so do you guys with Code Ninja do a demographic research as to what the market looks like, how many kids live in the area, what's the income level of the area? Do you do this research, or do you just rely on the franchisees to do the homework?
We will not rely on the franchisee at all in terms of that, because we're giving you one of our babies. We're approving your territory. We'll work with you as a franchisee for your market, but we have internal demographics, internal matrices, and external matrices that we use to approve a territory. We don't just, and one thing which I'm sure that you're hoping I was going to say that, the one thing that we pride ourselves on is we don't just turn territories over to those who have money. We have internal processes and matrix and guidelines that we go by for approving a market. So when it comes to some markets like Houston, Austin, Charlotte, North Carolina, and like New Jersey is getting pretty close. These are sold and closed out markets where they just don't have room anymore for Code Ninja. So some of these markets, out there, based on our internal matrix and our internal guidelines, some of these markets are sold, right? I mean, so when we look at areas, they definitely have to be approved by Code Ninjas.
All right. And how does the training support go? What kind of training support is given to the franchisees?
Tons. Like, we don't even have time to go over it all. But at Discovery Day, at Discovery Day, we have a full 45 minutes where we lay out new franchisee training, your ongoing support to work with you. You get a better understanding with that at Discovery Day. But we're a full support company. This isn't a license. We're full support. So when it comes to that, means that, like I mentioned earlier, dedicated people for compliance, technology, curriculum, performance coaching, because you're going to have your ups and downs as an entrepreneur, and you need to have experienced people that have lived that life to know the ups and downs that are going to be coming ahead of you. And you can get that from franchisees, and you can get that from internally in our corporate office as well.
All right. And what's the average fee per student, and what do you look at? Is it expected break even for the investment?
Sure. So I can't talk about break-evens or anything like that because the FDD, the Franchise Disclosure Document, is currently in a renewal stage for about 13 states, and this is a public call. And I can't go over those numbers in states that have yet to approve it. So that would we have to go over some of those more detailed revenue numbers one-on-one, because people could tune into this call. Their state's not approved yet. I go over those numbers, and it's against franchising law. So we have to do that one-on-one until all states are approved. When it comes to cost per student, we give our franchisees the flexibility to go from $150 up to $1,000 for what they want to charge. Typically, our franchisees land between $200 and $225 a month U.S.
U.S., okay. Right. And what are the next steps from here? So if somebody's interested, how do you go? Do you send them some sort of an interest document?
Yeah, you've probably already received an email from somebody on my team. If you haven't, then you need to reach out to me, Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, @codeninjas.com, and I'll connect you with somebody on my team.
Okay. And you have people working in Canada too, or the entire team is in the U.S. right now?
Well, I'm in northern Minnesota, so I'm kind of in Canada.
Oh, okay. Pretty close to us. I'm in Saskatchewan, so not very far.
Yeah, you're a little further north, yes. But we don't really need to have people in Canada for our corporate office. We've done, my team and I have done work in Canada. We understand franchising in Canada for about the last 12 years, so we're familiar with that market, and we can handle all that internally here in the U.S.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let me just go over what the details, and I've noted down some points, and if I have more questions, I can reach out to you, but I'll send you an email for somebody to connect for next steps.
Awesome. Reach out anytime.
Thanks, Marty.
Bye. Hi, you have a question?
Hello, Marty. My name's Brian Webker. I've been on one call before, and I didn't take as good of notes as I should have. So I'm getting a little closer to a decision point. But I'm interested in area development. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can. But right off the bat, we have 30 people on the call. Never mention your market. Don't mention your market. Do that.
I won't mention the area, but yeah.
So area development right now, new franchisees, brand new franchisees can only secure 2 locations. When you become a franchisee, you can secure more locations. But right off the get-go, we don't allow our franchisees to purchase more than 2. We work with you in strategically placing those locations to be sure you have the best opportunity to open that second location, and we give you a nice timeline. So for an example, we give you 12 months from the day you open up your first. We give you about 12 months to open up your second. Now, we give you 8 months to open up that first one. So for an example, if you got it open within 3 months, you would have you'd have 17 months to open up your second one. So we get the timeline to open up your second is set the day that you become a franchisee. So when we sign an area development agreement, that basically means you're agreeing to open up, for this example, would be 2 locations. And their timelines to open up those 2 are set the day that you become a franchisee. So typically what it looks like is 8 months to open up your first. If you opened up your first on that 8th month, you'd have 12 months to open up your second. But if you look all the math together, we give you 20 months basically to open up 2 locations. Just within that 20 months, there's a timeline for the first and the second for the requirements. Pretty easy, actually.
Okay, so to lock down 2 territories for 2 stores, which would essentially qualify you as an area developer. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you would need to you'd pay your franchise fee for both up front?
Correct.
And then is there, if let's say, something happened in the world and I decided to not go forward with the second one, is there any, I wouldn't expect probably a full refund on that, but is there a mechanism to recover any of the franchise fee that was paid for the second location?
There is not. We do not give refunds, and that's really important in franchising. So
can it be sold?
You cannot sell a territory. So if it's an unopened location and you don't open it, you lose those franchise fees and the rights to that market.
Okay. And how do you define your borders for a territory? I know that's a little bit. I left thinking it was a little bit ambiguous and had more to do with the density of the potential student population, less than miles.
Yeah, so really easy. It's anywhere. Typically, right now, all of our territories fall within a 2 to a 3 mile radius. That 2 to 3 mile radius is based on a couple of some external stuff would be median household income and number of students in our age range. The size of that territory will depend upon those numbers.
The density and the median income. Okay.
Yep.
And what are those figures that you're looking at typically for potential students and median income?
Well, yeah, I started at 70,000 median household income and at least 6,000 kids in our age range. and franchisees have proven me wrong multiple times. So they've proven that they can go into areas with less students and do well. They've proven that they can go into markets with less income and more students and crush it. So it's really like that's where we like to start to look, but like we're selling a lot more smaller markets. Rapid City, South Dakota, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Fargo, North Dakota, Columbus, Georgia. We're TGK, South Carolina, High Point, North Carolina. Some of these smaller markets have been really doing well, and we've been selling them more lately to smaller areas. So which is great because a lot of these smaller areas, they have a lot of kids, a lot of families, but maybe don't meet that 70,000, 6,000. Maybe it's 60,000 median household income, but they have 15,000 kids within 3 miles. Those are great opportunities for Code Ninjas.
Sure.
That maybe wouldn't have ever been looked at before because you have a certain standard in place. But our franchisees have been, and we've had people coming out of the woodwork. I haven't even marketed in some of these states and these communities, and people are coming in and they're like, no, this is, and we look at it and it's a great community, great opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. And then do you adjust that probably at least the median household income expectation based on the area? I mean, Washington National Capital Region is going to be significantly different than Gulfport, Mississippi, as an example.
Well, yeah, if somebody comes into and calls me up and says, hey, I want to open it up in the Bay Area and the median household income is $65,000. Sorry, that's below the poverty line there, right? So we can't do that. But you call me from Little Rock, Arkansas. That's a completely different story.
Yep. Okay. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for your questions. Hi, you have a question?
Hey, Marty. Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
Hey, my name's Kieran. This is a great session. Thank you. So just have a couple of questions. You mentioned that the average charge per student is $200 to $225. So what exactly does that cover? Is that the drop-in service of 2 hours a week, or what does that give a parent?
Yeah, so when I say $150 to up to $1,000, but most of our franchisees fall in the $200 to $225, that's for the drop-in program. That's for that belt program for up to 2 hours per week.
For how long? Is that for 3 months or 6 months?
As long as they want.
Okay.
So this goes on. It happens every month automatically. They get billed every month, automatic EFT draft every single month until they cancel. Some of our locations do contracts or agreements. Some of our locations just go month by month. Some of our locations allow paid in fulls. We give you the flexibility in there.
Okay. And is there an option for parents to drop out for a period of time and come back with no additional charges, or is there like a registration fee on top of this?
We currently, not one of our franchisees currently has any kind of penalties for a parent that wants to come back later. It's totally okay to come back later. All that, and even if you move, I mean, reciprocity is going to be kicked in pretty soon to where, I think in the next couple months here, to where our students can use any Code Ninjas and do the drop-in program because our system controls it all, so they can't abuse it. So it all lives in the cloud. So if somebody is in California and they end up moving to the great state of Minnesota, they can just move up here, go into a Code Ninjas, their information gets transferred, and they're ready to go in another Code Ninjas. And that could be 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road. They could take a year off. The data is going to be in there. Their info is going to be in the system. So there's no penalty for a parent that has to take some time off and come back. Their son or their daughter may have to work through some of the older stuff again just to kind of resharpen their skills. But that's like anything. That's like any language or any music lesson or any kind of sport. They're going to have to kind of maybe go back and redo a couple of things just to make sure that they retained it. But that's easy.
That's great. Okay. Thank you. The next question I had was, so in probably if you look at one of your older franchises, how many students do they have right now, and for how long have they been open?
Yeah, so one thing is, as soon as the franchise disclosure document is approved in every state on a public platform like this, I would be able to answer that question better. But until that happens, I have to answer that one-on-one. And we have to look at your state and make sure it's approved. So we definitely have more numbers. So our first 200 plus franchisees had no data. The second 200 and some franchisees had a little bit more data. This data we have now is more than our owners have ever seen. So we're releasing more and more data all the time that we can with our franchise disclosure document. We can't release any revenue data numbers unless it is disclosed. Being that we're a federally regulated company, franchises are, everything we do has to be proven. It can't just be numbers we're pulling out. It actually has to be backed up with the data. So we use third-party even collection companies. So with the revenue and the monies, we actually use a third party to also get that. So we're actually kind of double layering it. But that we have more and more data that we're releasing every year. And obviously we have all the tools in place. I mean, obviously with over 225 franchisees making the decision already, there's definitely good tools there for you to be able to build that out. And we know how to help you. We take you as far as we can to help you, even connect you with franchisees in the process, so to help maybe answer some questions.
Got it. Okay, thanks. So with your experience so far with the franchisees, what's been the most rewarding, like an ad or a campaign method for them? Like where do they get the more for their buck in terms of advertising and stuff?
Well, digital marketing strategies by far, which we built out before we even launched as a brand. We built out all of our digital marketing strategies so that when we did launch, we were able to do quite a bit of sharpening with that. So with everything that we do, with every opening we have, we look at that data and obviously how to sharpen it for our franchisees. So at Discovery Day, for example, we have an entire segment that's dedicated just to our marketing. So you as a prospective franchisee in attendance can actually see and hear what we do for our marketing in a little bit more in depth.
Got it. Okay. The next one I had was, now one of the things I absolutely loved was what you said, that the camps, you can actually take them to schools rather than in addition to what you can offer at your own center. So you also mentioned that, sometimes you could have a coordinated center like maybe 5 miles away or 10 miles away eventually when it continues to grow. So how would you define which center would reach out to which school?
Well, every school has to be approved. So when you want to go to a school system, you have to submit that to my support team. My support team then gives you the approval to go there. So we have internal processes and guidelines that we follow. So that if something was to come up in the future to where you're operating in a school that's outside of your territory and then that gets sold to another franchisee, we actually have guidelines and processes in there as well for you to follow to be able to work that out with your new neighbor franchisee.
Got it. Okay. All right. One last one I had was, now I know you mentioned that your setup cost or your overall investment could range anywhere between $110,000 to $250,000, and that depends on the construction cost and the tenant investments from the landlord. In addition to that, I know some franchises do offer subsidies for their franchisees. Do you offer anything towards that setup or construction cost, at least for the first year?
Sorry, ask that question one more time.
Sorry. So you mentioned that the investment could range anywhere between $110,000 to $250,000, just depending on the location and the construction cost and the tenant investments available from the landlord. In addition to that, from Code Ninja itself, do you guys offer any subsidies to your franchisees for year one to pay towards any of that?
No, we do not. We have financial brokers that we work with, but we don't offer we don't offer anything for that. We don't offer any. We don't give any funding for your construction costs or anything like that. We have financial brokers we work with, but we as a franchise don't pay for our franchisees or loan them money for any of that.
Okay. And in your experience, typically what is the time that it takes to set up a location?
Yeah, great question. So the day you sign your franchise agreement to the day you open your doors is typically 7 months. We give you 8 months. Some of our franchisees do it in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. So we give you a total of 8 months. Our franchisees typically do it in 7 or less. So that's pretty easy. From the day you sign your lease for your space to the day you open is typically 3 months.
Okay.
So the faster you get to that lease, the faster you open.
Okay. And do you expect, so say, for example, it's a sole proprietor, do you expect them to, if, for example, myself, I currently have a full-time job, so do I have to quit my job to be able to own this as a franchisee?
We don't have that as a requirement. We don't have it as a requirement that you have to be owner-operated every day.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, Marty. Those are all the questions I had. And I have signed up for the Discovery Day, so I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, wonderful. Great. I look forward to meeting you. I host those, so it'll be fun to meet you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Hi. You have a question?
Hi. Thanks for the presentation. Do you allow multiple owners for one franchise?
Yes. Yep.
And what for a typical franchise? You mentioned 1,800 square feet. How many full-time employees versus part-time employees do you typically see?
Well, you'd have one full-time, and then you'd probably have 3 to 5 part-time employees. Your hours are your hours for your part-timers, right? So it doesn't make a difference if you have 3, 5, or 10. The hours are going to be the hours. So it's not, it's not like you're going to have all 10 people there at once or all 5. If you have 5 code senseis in there at one time and you're running an 8-to-1 ratio, you got a packed house, and congratulations.
Okay. And do you have many first-time franchisees? Do you give preference for people who have been franchise owners before, or?
We give no preference to anybody. We just want to have a great partner. We want to have a great partnership.
Okay, great. And can you tell me a little bit more about the digital marketing? Is that through social media, or how's that platform work?
I usually don't go too deep into our digital marketing strategies because they've been very, very successful. So I typically don't go into exactly what we do, but at Discovery Day, you would be able, if you're invited to Discovery Day, you would be able to meet with my digital marketing and my marketing team because they're there with you, and you could ask away, and they could fill you in some more.
Okay, so I haven't received an invitation to Discovery Day. How do I procure an invite?
Because you have to be invited verbally by myself or somebody on my team. So that would be you've entered our. So when you're a part of the discovery process with my team, myself and my team, then you and our team, we work together in determining if Discovery Day is a good idea for you. So after we kind of go through a little bit of more talking more in detail where you're at, what you're looking to accomplish, are we a good fit with one another? Once we can do some of that over the phone, and if it all looks good, then coming to Discovery Day at our corporate office in Houston shouldn't be a problem.
Oh, I see. Great. All right, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, thank you. I appreciate your time. Hi, you have a question?
Yeah, hi. This is Nisha. I had a question about, the drop-in sessions that you have. So usually if it's like a 1 or 1.5 hour or 2 hour session, do parents drop and pick up the students? Do you provide any after-school care where they can stay a bit longer? Because my target group is mainly working parents. So right now they would use after-school care. I'm just wondering how the current franchisees do that with with that.
Yes, it's up to sure. So the drop-in program is going to be, they're being dropped off and being picked up, right? There also is an after-school program. So an after-school program is available for our franchisees to do as well. That's where they would either go and pick the students up and bring them to their center.
Okay.
And are you calling from the UK? Are you calling from the UK?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I am. I'm the partner of Arun Anand. I believe you spoke this week. Yeah. So I was just wondering the logistics part of it, because within our area it would be a few schools. So we were kind of thinking of getting a bus or something like that, and then bringing the kids to the center.
That's what we do here in the States. So that's what we do here in the States and in Canada. The U.S. and Canada, our franchisees that participate in the after-school program, they have a van/bus that's wrapped in Code Ninjas, and they pick up students at the schools and bring them back to the center.
Okay.
Awesome.
I think it would be good to understand a bit more about how that works, because we were actually quite looking into the logistics part of it, and also the compliance and legal part of it. But I think we can pick that up based on the location as well.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. Well, thank you. Look forward to launching in the UK. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks.
Hi, you have a question?
Hi, this is Zach. Great
Hi, Zach.
question. You just mentioned about the 9 bells. Like every the kid has to go through the 9 bells, right? So how much is the accumulative cost for for parents to go through all these 9 bells?
It's impossible to say what it's going to cost, because we don't know how fast their son or their daughter is going to work through it. It's a self-paced but not self-taught program. So it all depends on the student. We know it's a 3 to 4 year program, paced out at about 2 hours per week. If with the new program we have coming out and they choose to come in longer, they could get through it faster.
Okay. And what is the retention rate on the kids? Like, they come in, how long they tend to stay with Code Ninja?
Well, so we have right now we average an 8% month-over-month attrition. So we have a very, very strong retention rate for our students. Very strong.
8%. All right.
Month over month. So that's
month over month.
That's impressive. In a child-focused center. That's crazy.
Got it. All right. A few more things. Just recently I signed up for, I went online because I heard about you guys through my friend. Their kids are going to Code Ninja. So I kind of like the idea, and my kids are going to go in summers also to Code Ninja. So I'm kind of interested in knowing, how do we know about the territories are open, and especially the ones we are interested in?
Well, it looks like you're in Houston. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, there's nothing available in Houston or the surrounding communities. The closest territory to you would be Corpus Christi.
Corpus Christi.
We have 30 locations opening up in Houston in the next 18 months. So Houston is completely sold out and closed, and all the surrounding communities.
Okay. So 18 for a place like Houston, 18 is still not enough, because my personal business is T-Mobile. I'm a franchisee for T-Mobile. I have over 100 locations with T-Mobile. I represent them in different states, including Texas and Houston. So 18 locations itself for Code Ninja.
I said, okay, a couple things. One, I said 30 over the next 18 months. Two, we're not T-Mobile. It's completely different on how that works. Our corporate office is based out of Pearland, so we've done extensive research all over Houston. And currently Houston is not an available market for anybody except if you're an existing franchisee. And it's very limited. I think 1 market or 2 markets are left in the entire city of Houston. We do territories different than most franchises, and that's really important to remember. We don't stack our territories on top of one another. And once you really truly understand how we work and how we do our territories, you really grow to love it. We don't stack our territories on top of one another where our franchisees are fighting over the same students. We spread our franchisees out a little bit more to give them more opportunity for growth.
Got it. All right. Thanks for the answers.
All right. Thank you. Hi, you have a question?
Hi, Marty. This is Mike. I'm going to keep my question short since I'm going to be seeing you soon, actually. But you mentioned early on that the students go all the way up until actual coding in App Store. Is that what I understand correctly? And do they actually place the app on App Store or wherever and make a profit from it?
They can, sure. Yep, that's the hope.
Okay.
The hope is that they can make some money after that, yes.
Oh, cool. The other thing is that congratulations on the growth. How is your internal growth as far as support for the franchisees?
Currently, we have 25 team members, and I believe last week they just hired, it was either 2 or 3 more individuals just focused on franchisee support.
Oh, great. All right. Very good there.
Yeah.
And have you ever turned down any prospective franchisees?
Almost every week we turn people down.
Oh, okay.
This is because it's a 100% a partnership, right? I mean, we have to be able to work well together. We have to. A lot of times, and I'm not afraid to say this with still 30 people on the line, if somebody's focused on Code Ninjas as a turn and burn franchise where all they care about is what's your AUV, right? What's your average unit value and how much money can I make? And I'm going to keep my full-time job. I'm just going to build this over there in a different state or whatever, and I'm going to have it do, and I'm just going to hire people to run it. That's a red flag to us. You're not really investing into your community. You're not focused on delivering an exceptional experience. We are not a nonprofit. Totally get that. But we also are not a build it and they will come franchise. Build it and they will come franchises, that is a different individual than somebody who's truly trying to invest into delivering an exceptional experience and wanting to engage in their community. So when it comes to what we look for in our franchisees, it's that partnership. We know people are going to have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 10 locations. Totally get that. But that franchisee also is one that we vet out very carefully to make sure that they understand what kind of experience we're trying to deliver and what our goals and our purposes are. And do they align together? So it's really important for everybody to understand we are not a build and they will come franchise, and we will not have that our platform to where people are not worried about the experience. They're just worrying about the numbers. We get the numbers are important. We want our franchisees to be extremely profitable, but we also have to have people's focus on delivering an exceptional experience and building that culture inside their Code Ninjas. And some people just don't get that. They want to treat it like a sub shop or a pizza shop, and it can't be treated that way. That's a different type of franchise than a fitness center or a Code Ninjas or a boutique like Orange Theory. We are in a different realm than Papa John's or Papa Murphy's. It's a different realm.
All right, that's very good to know. I'm going to save the rest of the questions until we meet. So thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. All right, look forward to meeting you. Hi, you have a question? Hi, do you have a question? No? Well, I want to thank everybody for taking their time to join me today. This conference call. Like I mentioned earlier, we actually are launching in the UK. We actually start marketing in the UK here in the next 2 weeks. So I already have a team over there, have everything aligned, ready to go over there. So the UK is going to be launched in the next 2 weeks. We'll have a separate conference calls for the UK versus the US and Canada. But if you know anybody over there, this would be a good time for them to get in because sooner the better. The model will be a little bit different, but it'll be awesome over there in the UK. Nothing like us over there. Thanks for the time today. Really do appreciate it. If you have more questions, you want to reach out to me. You want to dive in a little bit deeper with markets. You want to talk more about what our markets look like and the why behind it. Zach had a great question earlier, and I would love to be able to dive in more with you, Zach, if you're still on. You want to call me, you want to talk it through, feel free to send me an email, marty@codeninjas.com. We can talk it through some more. Otherwise, thanks for your time today. Really do appreciate it. Feel free to reach out anytime, marty@codeninjas.com.